Sean McDermott.
Negative, man. You are negative. I know. There's no off-season. Get your hair cut, though. Looks sharp, man.
Thank you.
Jeez. And you still made us wait an hour. Are you wearing my shoes, man? What are you biting off me from practice, man? This is the same shoes I wear. You grab those out of my locker. All right. Time's yours. Go ahead and open up.
Since the last time we talked to you, your quarterback won the MVP. What's that kind of say? I know what you guys think of him inside the room, but to see that validated throughout the league.
I mean, I think it, like you said, the word validated, it validates everything that he's been doing for years. It validates his leadership this year, the way he's played on the field this season, the way he's matured off the field, on the field, his decision-making and how that's improved. So all these areas that were perceived, call it gaps, Josh has answered those gaps and he's closed those gaps. And when you do that at the level that he did it at on a consistent basis, the result was the MVP. And so to me, as I said during the year, later in the year in particular, he deserved that, every bit of that award.
Hey, Sean, you're in the second year talking about the kickoff rule for the last couple of days. Do you see the rationale in a 35-yard touchback, or do you think it's still a little ways away from
Yeah, I'm not going to get into where it's at in terms of being approved or not. Just my own opinion on it. We know the obvious thing is you're going to get more potential returns, which I think is good for the game personally. So, you never know when you move things a little bit, even if small tweaks, kind of the residual effects of other, of those tweaks, right? So you're never really sure how the overall game is going to get affected. But I like where and what the kickoff did this year for our game. Do we leave it alone, or do we move it a little bit just to the right or to the left? And so we'll see where that goes.
Sean, you reportedly made a change as special teams coordinator. Did you confirm that you moved on from Matthew Smiley? What went into that decision?
Yeah, I did. I can confirm that. It's a hard business, right? Unfortunate part of the business, the hard part of my job. And those decisions are hard decisions. And so, I know what I said after the season there. And for me, it's wanting to take my time and go through it and making sure that I fully evaluate the position, but also where we need to go with that position. And so that was the reason for the timing on it. Matthew Smiley is a heck of a person, heck of a coach, and I can't thank him and his family enough.
Sean, can you also break down the other coaching moves you made?
Yeah. I'll go through some of them. So we added Ryan Nielsen as senior defensive assistant. Ryan's been a coordinator the last two stops, one in Jacksonville and then prior to that in Atlanta. Before that, Ryan's expertise as a position coach was really coming up as a defensive line coach in New Orleans in particular, and then some other spots before that. So Ryan's going to help us out on defense overall. His main focus is going to be the defensive line.
What do you like about Tabor?
Well, I've been tracking Tabes, just his career. You guys probably do the same thing. You're coming up around the same age, and you're seeing people who are really good at what they do. Naturally, you keep tabs on them. You become friends through the business, through the profession, and Tabes has been usually tied up, as many of these good veteran coaches are. And so, this year, him being out this past season, coming off of his time at Carolina, offered me an opportunity to interview him and spend some time with him, and then make the hire. Well, Elaine, I would say probably one that was higher up on my scale was experience, was veteran experience. It's not all that different in terms of hiring Coach Cromer, right? Just in terms of veteran experienced position coach, in this case coordinator, that's had a lot of success. So, when you can get a coach like that, they're hard to come by, number one. And so when you can get your hands on one, I think you got to take the swing, and that's what I decided to do.
What did you see in Mike Pellegrino that made him right fit for you?
Well, number one, division we basically swapped with New England and with Coach Booker going there, and then Mike coming here. So happy to have Mike and his family. I think more than anything, one of the things that came across was just really what they've done defensively there, in particular under Coach Belichick on the defensive side, with some of the way that they've shaped their coverage packages, their zone, their man-to-man, and their development of some of those players that they've had in the back end. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that drew me to Mike and spending some time with him, and then also some of the schemes, like I said, as well. So Mike, if you know his background, is a John Hopkins guy, so he's extremely smart, and you can never go wrong hiring smart guys that work hard.
Will his role be, what will his title be, John?
Nickel coach.
Nichols?
Yes. Yep.
Do you anticipate, because of some of the hires you've made now, we saw a little bit of it at the end of the year, a little more man coverage in your scheme? Are you thinking along those terms?
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, Sal, I would tell you that it would happen organically. It's not. I'm not being intentful about, hey, we got to play man to man and we have to hire these people and play man to man at the end of the year. Versus, I mean, you're probably looking a little bit, some of you guys, too much into that. That was a response to, in particular in that last game, what was happening in terms of the ball coming out a little bit quicker. We're going to do and evolve in the off season how we feel like we need to go and evolve defensively. And I think it's important that you have a vision for what the league is and where offenses are going, and then, again, how we need to be out in front of that curve.
How much do you change philosophically based on the personnel that you have? When you even get to training camp, even how you set it up, once you see your team and get them out on the grass, how much do you kind of change over the course of time philosophically based on people?
Well, you said it all right there, Ryan. It's I believe spring is, I'll lay it like this. Spring is for taking what you've seen on tape in the off season and studied, and basically saying, let's try it out. Let's experiment, right, for lack of a better word. And then from there you refine it down, sharpen it, and say, this is what we liked. This is what may fit us best based on what we know about our players to this point. And then you go and you basically get yourself to a training camp menu that you're really now trying to build the reps with. But all the while through the course of spring into training camp, but in particular in spring, you're really figuring out who you have and what the strengths of your roster is, especially on defense in this case. And then you're seeing it in a similar way in training camp, but now with full pads on, playing the real game of football, which sometimes can change. You get a little bit of a false impression on someone in shorts and T-shirt, and then you get to the game being played on the field in pads, and you can kind of tweak and adjust from there. So our system is predominantly built around who we have and what they do best.
How do you think Bobby will grow your one
You know, I think he's going to grow. How much is really up to him, and he's a Type A personality guy. He's extremely passionate about growing and intense. And I think that when you have those type of qualities, personality-wise, and drive, commitment-wise, dedication, too, it bodes well for a tremendous amount of growth. And so I think that he is going to learn a lot from year one. And carry it into year two, and it's only going to help them.
Sean, there's also been reports Eric Siano's no longer with the organization. Is that the case? And if so, do you have any strength and conditioning?
Yeah, so again, Coach Siano gave a lot of years of service, he and his family both, and staples in our community in Orchard Park in particular, and great friends with his family as well. So hard to see him move on. Happy for him that he's landed in Jacksonville, and he's going to do great there. As far as our status and where we're at with our head strength and conditioning position, we are going through interviews right now, but that's really where we're at right now.
You've had a lot of success with the tush push and the quarterback sneak. Is it a fair play? Is there an injury risk that is concerning?
To me, there's always been an injury risk with that play, and I've expressed that opinion for the last couple of years or so when it really started to come into play. The way it's being used, especially a year ago. So I just feel like players' safety and the health and safety of our players has to be at the top of our game, which it is. It's just that play to me has always been the way that the techniques that are used with that play to me have been potentially contrary to the health and safety of the players, and so again, you have to go back though in fairness to the injury data on the play, but I just think the optics of it I'm not in love with.
Sean, obviously, performance from the defensive front, Philadelphia's win over Kansas City was widely talked about. We know your feelings about the position, but does it almost even ratchet things up a level to really emphasize the importance that group needs to be for you?
Well, I think it's a philosophical thing more than anything. That's what I believe in. That's as you saw, that's a pretty good copy. Carbon copy of what you can do, and give credit to the Eagles, to their players played well and this and that and scheme and this and that, but it's never about one game, and it's just overall, generally speaking, you have to, when you're in these seats, you have a general philosophy on how you believe the game should be played and how things are built, and so it's really what I came from years ago in Philadelphia, ironically enough, and I've talked about it since we've been here. So that was a heck of a game to watch.
Sean, James Cook has been very outspoken about his upcoming contract status in the media this offseason. Not asking you to get into the weeds there, but do you have any perspective on that in terms of what he's asking for and what the team values James in his position as a starter?
Well, I love James. When you're a coach, I'm going to take the business part out of it for a second, if I can. When you're a coach and you're on the field with these players and you're in the meetings and you're watching them develop on the field, off the field, he's a great example of one of the joys that comes with coaching is developing and watching a young man develop in both of those areas, and then to go on the field in this case, this year in particular, and have the success that he experienced and how he helped our team. It's just a great feeling as a coach to watch a young man do what he did, and the business part is going to take care of itself. Brandon, I know, is on top of that, and he will be on top of that moving forward.
Sean, going back to John's question about the defensive line, what the Eagles were able to do, and maybe the blueprint for beating that team that you guys are trying to get past in the Chiefs. You mentioned Coach Nielsen and him having a focus on the defensive line. Is that an area that maybe you've identified here after the season as a group that you need to see a collective improvement from up front there?
Well, I don't think you can ever have enough good coaches, in particular at those critical positions. And so when Coach Nielsen came available, again, you look at his career and where he went, and it's hard to get your hands on. And I'll use the defensive line. It's hard to get your hands on really good defensive line coaches, and he has that pedigree. He's had that success at that position. So the short answer on it is it's about acquiring a really good football coach that happens to be a defensive line coach as well, and he'll team with Marcus and Rebs as well in that position. And so when you can put good coaches around yourself as a head coach, who have been there and done that at a high level, it bodes for good things in the future. And so techniques, fundamentals, intensity, I'm just talking about the things that from a coaching standpoint. So anyway, from a coaching standpoint, those are the pieces that I control, and I'm always trying to add the best possible coaches that I can.
John, I remember last year you talked about at some point in the offseason last year, you talked about how imperative it was you needed to get a field stretcher on offense. And
a field stretcher,
as a receiver.
Yeah.
You really didn't get that. You got a lot of guys that were intermediate. Is that a need that you have to address, whether it's free agency or the draft?
Well, without getting too much into strategy and whatnot, I am a believer in that speed, stretching the field. Not just vertically, but horizontally and vertically. I think it just opens up a defense, and so I thought we did that at times. Probably not enough this year. and not just throwing the ball deep. It doesn't always mean that. It means taking a short pass and taking it, and some good rack yards for us in production. So I thought overall we did some good things in that wide receiver room. I really do. Can you always benefit from adding more speed? Absolutely. Yeah.
Just expanding on that, can you talk about the development of Keon Coleman, and then on top of that, what you think of the wide receiver class this year?
Well, I'll just start with the wide receiver class this year. My exposure is 0.0, and these guys, the local people, know that that's what it is almost every year I come here. Usually, thankfully, because we play later in the year in the playoffs, but also because I like to come in with a blank slate for the most part and then make my own evaluation and opinion on the player. As far as Keon goes, I thought he had an up and down first season. I really do. And I mentioned that after the year. I thought he got off to a start that he built momentum through, and then he got injured. And then from there on, it was rather rocky, I would say. And we're looking for him to learn from those moments of adversity and come back and have a really, really, really strong off season and get himself going into the start of season 2 here.
When you have a conversation with a very young player like that, him in particular, who seems to have a lot of positive energy around him, how did he respond to that kind of evaluation?
I mean, he's a good young man that just as most young players don't always know what they don't know about the league and how hard this league is, and so it's more constructive style conversation and topics with how we can move forward together and what you have to do, the process between now and the start of the off-season program in March and April. So that's really what it's about, and until you've gone through it, you haven't gone through it. And so just trying to build awareness of what you need to do. There's a lot of people who come in and have a good first year, and then another rookie at the same position doesn't have the same level of success. And then what you find, and it's kind of human nature, is the person who had great success that first season kind of relaxes a little bit and downshifts, thinking that they understand how this league works. And it's actually the player that didn't play much in the first year comes and has a better second year than the first player does. And it's just a weird dynamic to me, but it really makes sense when you think about it. Like, you have to stay urgent. You have to stay on the gas, or this league will eat you up, whether you're a player, a coach, whatever it is. And that takes a certain type of person with a certain drive and determination and fire in their heart. And it's going to be Keon's turn to show that he has that this offseason.
Hey, Sean, Benford had back-to-back concussions. Has he been cleared?
Yes, he's been cleared. He left. Don't quote me on this, Ryan, but I think within a week after the season ended, he was cleared to go. Yeah.
Sean, Tommy Doyle announced his retirement. I know that he hasn't played, unfortunately, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But you had him around a lot, and he was with the guys. Can you just kind of take us into your relationship with him and watching him and unfortunately having to call him?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into now some personal stories, right? Just if a movie could be made about Tommy Doyle, there needs to be a movie made. Just because of what I'm saying is, you see these personal interest stories that pop up on shows, and before, watching the USA play Canada the other night, and these personal interest stories that are popping up about the players on each team and the stories. And it's just, to me, fascinating to listen to the journey of how these players get to where they're at. Tommy, no different, right? Comes in, drafted where he was drafted, and gets off to a really, really good start, and then experiences what he went through. And then that journey, that next chapter of his life and his career began. And to watch him handle that in the way that he handled that, not only did it inspire me, it inspired everybody in our building. And to watch a young man grow in his faith in God through the course of that, to me is, again, the NFL is hard. The NFL, I understand, is about results, but it's awesome to see when a young man is able to handle an adverse situation and really come out of it. I don't want to say in a better spot, but darn it, man, he is going to be successful at whatever he does. He's a winner.
Talk about the years you played that maybe takes a step back. Do you feel like Dalton came fall into that category, or was his mostly about
I would say, in my opinion, as I sit here right now, I feel like it's mostly about health. Now, are there some things he can do as well that he needs to do to continue to do this? Yes, and he's very aware of those things. And the thing about Dalton that I want to make sure everybody understands is he is as serious about football and his improvement as anybody on our football team. He loves the game. He loves to compete, and some of the way he plays is a reflection of his competitiveness. Right? He's not a big tight end, but he plays like a big tight end, and within that, he's been hurt a little bit in year one and then again in year two. So the most important thing that we need to do, and we need to help him with, and he needs to do as well, and taking the lead on this, is getting stronger and more durable for us to be out there even more. So I don't question his ability. It's just can he get strong enough from a play strength standpoint to help us every week of the season, and in particular in the playoffs when we need him the most.
Sean, was that a conversation that was had after his rookie year, or was it something that you came to that realization more as year two went on that he needed to do that?
In terms of after year two, you mean this past off season, Jay? Or
The idea of needing to add strength to increase durability, it seems like maybe that would have been a conversation after his rookie year going into year two. So my question is, was that conversation had at that point, or did it become a realization in year two that you maybe needed to do that?
No, I think the awareness was there both years. It's just a matter of, hey, how soon do you develop some of that, and then how, when you're able to stay healthy enough too, that they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, right? Stronger, more success, potentially more durable, all that stuff. It works together. So that awareness was coming after year one. But I would say when you're just after year one, he had such an incredible year after year one. It was still there, but probably when you go into the second year and then he experiences another injury, right, or two. Now it's starting to add up. Hey, we gotta find a solution to this for sure, right? Because it's not, going from year one to year two, probably didn't get to where we had hoped he would get to from a strength and durability standpoint. But now 2 years in a row, you start to build. It's starting to become a tendency and a pattern. So we got to get this thing stopped.
John, where does Terrell Bernard in terms of his development being the captain this year? Few less splash plays than the year before. Where is he in the development? Where is he going?
Well, I would say that TB is to first and foremost get a C on your chest when there's only 2 given out, and you're just your third season as a pro. I think really speaks volumes about who he is and how his teammates view him. So that's number one. 2 is his play. I think at some point he turned a corner and started to make some of those splash plays again. And I think it was maybe, don't quote me on this, mid to mid plus point of the season, where he was starting to get some of those same plays. And I think what happened a little bit was early on, coming off of a really good year two, maybe trying to do a little bit too much at times, right? And that sometimes happens also when you get the C on your chest of, hey, you're good here, you're good there, and all of a sudden, oh wait, hang on, I got to make sure I'm locking down my part as well. So we had conversations about that after the season, right? With, hey, leadership comes in a lot of different forms, but first of all, you start by leading yourself. And he had great intentions all the way through the year. It was just, hey, let me understand this role of a captain, and then now my play starts to pick back up again. And I think we saw that towards the end of the year, in particular when that Baltimore game stands out.
Sure. You signed Shane. You gave Mike White the extension. Mitch is still around. How do you see the quarterback position beyond Josh Allen as you dive into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, we got 4 guys in there, and I played quarterback in high school. I'm thinking I may try it a little bit too, wing T, right? But why not? We got add a 5th. That's right, option. We can go either way with it. Although the wingback said I never pitched it, but I remember once or twice I pitched it to him. But no, we've got a really good group in there. It's a fun group. They work well together, and that's huge for Josh and Josh's continued growth and you want to be happy when you're coming to work every day, driving down that driveway at One Bills, and when you like who you're going into the room with, that's a big piece. Now, having said all that, you got to be able to play and get the job done as well. And I think that'll be, I know, that's going to be a very intentional part of our off season, part of our spring, part of training camp, to see, hey, when you get in the game, what does it look like, and how good can we be at that position?
Sean, this is your.
With Von Miller? Does he still have a future with you guys?
Yeah, love Von. I mean, I thought, Von, I think people sometimes forget, came in and had success early, and then he went through the knee situation. And the thing I love about Von is he very rarely, if ever, used kind of the victim role approach. He always was, hey, I'm coming back. I'm going to be back. I'm working on it. He's just so elite with his mental. To come off of a knee injury, in particular when you're 30 plus, is a challenge. And I thought this year was a lot better than the year before, and that's really what you want to see.
You only had 16 snaps against Kansas City. Were you trying to maximize his pass rush snaps there? It's a low number.
Yeah, it was low. Ideally you can get him into third down, and I didn't think we won enough first downs or second downs, early downs, to get him into third down or third and long enough, mark in that capacity. So sometimes those go hand in hand, and ultimately it's also a role feeling the game on the sideline too. And hey, we're not getting into a lot of third downs, so let's get Von some work on first and second. So those go hand in hand as well.
Sean, this will be your 8th draft with Brandon. How have you, over the years, fine-tuned that relationship this time of year to pair his vision with the evaluation with your vision on the field once you get done playing?
Give me that again.
How have you been able to kind of streamline the process of matching his evaluation, his team's evaluation with your plan for once they're
In terms of what philosophically,
just getting them in a
the
position
vision.
to contribute right away?
You talking about first-year players, or? Well, I think this year, and I know it's talked about every year, but we play the players that are that are good enough to play. Like, we have no agenda on, hey, this player, because he was drafted in this round, must play over the undrafted player. And I think Joe Andreessen's a great example of that, right? I'm just not a big believer in that, and I know Brandon isn't either. It's the players that are ready to play, they play. And the players that are in the jobs are usually the ones that are ready to play the most, and they do the best in the preseason. Now, as I've said before, there's a little bit of, hey, feet in the ground, a little bit of roots, a little bit of foundation for those that started the year before. So it's going to take a little bit more to beat those players out. But really, and I learned this from Brian Dawkins years ago in Philadelphia, when you go to camp, when you go to training camp, every player's goal should be, I'm making the team. And even if you're an all-pro, like Brian Dawkins and Hall of Famer, it's make the team, and it's got to be earned. And so when a player like that takes that approach, I think all of us, coaches included, can take that approach.
Great transition from Brian Dawkins. I was just going to ask you about safeties. And you got Cole Bishop, who got his feet wet.
Yep.
Tamar's a free agent. Taylor obviously was hurt at the beginning of the year. How do you assess that position, and is Cole maybe ready to step up into a bigger role?
Well, I think we'll see, honestly. You never really know, but it's important. When you draft players, that they come in and they play, whether it's year 1, year 2, whatever. Usually there's hey, if you haven't played by the end of training camp at year 3, something could be going on, right? So I think in Cole's situation, we'll be counting on him to have an impact on our defense. One of the biggest challenges that he went through last year was the injury during training camp, I believe it was, or a lot of training camp. And then he got behind, quite frankly. And so I think more than anything, it's what is he, similar to Dalton, similar to a lot of the players going from year 1 to year 2, what does he come back looking like, right? Does he come back looking like he just busted his tail when in the time when he was away from us, and he was a madman and getting himself ready to go and to really kick some tail out there, and he has a mastery of the defense, and he's coming back, and now he's not thinking he's just playing. We'll know. We'll know. It doesn't take long to know when a guy walks back in the building if he's worked or not. I have a lot of confidence Cole's wired the way that he will be a player that will put in the time and work. But again, you really don't know until the player comes back. So I'm not going to sit here and make guarantees he's going to do this or that. At the end of the day, he's going to have a chance to win the job. And, that's when you draft a player where we drafted him. You want him to win that job. But he's got to do it. We can't do it for him.
Hey, Sean, when you guys start talking to players this week in that meeting, do you observe or do you really ask a lot of questions? You personally?
A little bit of both. So the way we do it, and I don't want to give away, Brandon's secrets and strategy in the meeting room, but there's a little bit of film involved and a little bit of get to know you, but more so we kind of already know the background on them. And so, usually Brandon will start off with a couple questions, and then the coaches, the position coach in particular, or the coordinator, will get onto the film with the players. So I kind of jump in where I feel like I need to, whether it's on a personal thing that I'm just not feeling great about that the player may have talked about, or something that's not jiving with their answers coming off of the film from a mental standpoint. So it's hard, 15 minutes, and especially with the way these guys are, taught, educated, however you want to say it. You can kind of come across one way for 15 minutes and then be somebody else a little bit on the field, off the field, outside of those 15 minutes, right? So it's trying to find in those 15 minutes a little bit of gut instinct on what we're looking at, what we're dealing with.
Follow up on that. When you have a top 30 guy come to the facility, do you always spend one-on-one time with that player?
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's not always one-on-one. It's usually either one-on-one or it's in a leadership group. Myself, Brandon, some of our other top-level scouts usually sit down together, if we can, and meet with the prospect.
Just curious about the coaching of the prospects. Was there a time frame that you can remember where you went, "Oh wow, these guys know the answers to the test before we give them the test"?
I think it's evolved over the years. It's been a gradual evolution, right? Which is what you'd expect, year to year. The agents, hire people to get them ready, and the agents are becoming more and more aware, and then honestly more exposure into what happens allows for more awareness, and then more educating, right, on the field and off the field and classroom, and how the meeting's going to go, and running the 40. I mean, you go back over the years to the guys that have blown up the combine test, right, and then get drafted up here, and they're really good athletes, but the game is played on a field, and it's not a 40-yard dash. So it's that blend, right? Because you guys know it. When somebody comes out here and runs a 4 whatever, or jumps, yay high, all of a sudden they start moved up on people's boards, and can they play the game? That's what I'm most interested in. You guys good? All right. Good to see everyone.